I want to talk to you today about typically the 5 things a narcissist does at the end of the relationship. Now, there's multiple different things and there's multiple different versions of this. So I'm just going to give you a quick glimpse of what this actually looks like when we're talking about what does a narcissist actually do at the end of the relationship. Obviously, there's different pieces throughout the relationship that have manipulation, that have frustration, that have all these different things that he's doing. But at the end, what does that actually look like? What does it actually change? Well, it's easy to be able to start off with the first one, which is just very simple. Like, number one, when at the end of the relationship, typically the narcissist is going to be mad, right? Like, you're kind of like, okay, this is obvious, Ben. Where are you going with this? Okay, narcissist is going to be pissed off, right? He's going to be pissed off because you just did something that he didn't want you to do. Like, you just decided you're going to end the relationship. You just said, hey, we're over. You just said you're going to go no contact. You just said, like, it's done. Okay. And he's been looking at this for a period of time of like, how do I blame this? How do I pin this on you? And typically there's this piece of like, you just abandoned me. You just rejected me. And he's like, how could you? Oh, I'm mad, right? Like, he's going to be mad. Okay. Typically a narcissist is not going to be able to accept criticism. And typically going to be like running away from being accountable or being responsible. So oftentimes when the narcissist gets mad, it's because he's viewing you as being the aggressor, the attacker in the relationship. Like, how does that even make sense? Well, typically what's happening is you leave him. He has to play the victim, so he feels better about himself. So he's like, I can't believe that she just left me. And so he's playing the victim, and then he's like mad. He's like, I'm mad that she actually left. Like, how could she do this to me? And it almost feels like this like self-righteous anger of like, this is what's going on. Like, how rude. Narcissist is like really, really mad. Okay, rage, anger, all this kind of stuff happens. So you'll see what you're doing. You'll see what's happening. You're breaking up with him as this personal attack. But he's not going to accept the flaws of himself. He's not going to accept the things that are going wrong. Instead, he's going to be really, really mad at you for ending the relationship. Okay? He might be using this to be able to belittle you, might be like blowing up at you, might be raging out at you, whatever it might be. But simply said, he's going to be mad. Okay. Second thing that typically is going to happen is going to try to make you feel guilty. Okay. Now with this, he's like, how do I make you feel bad about your decision? Like, how do I make you question and doubt yourself and make you think that it's your fault? Okay. So he's mad, he's pissed off, and then he's like, okay, how do I switch this around so I don't feel as bad about myself? How do I make sure that you feel guilty? You need to feel guilty for breaking up with him. Maybe he's trying to get an emotion out of you where he's sitting there and he's starting to cry. He's starting to feel like the victim. He's starting to look like the person who's been abused. And you're like, oh, I'm sorry that you feel that way. Okay? He might bring up like the nice things that he's done for you. I've invested all this time into you. Like we've done these things. We've spent so much time together. Like we've had years together. You're gonna leave me now? You're gonna leave me when I'm working on myself, when I'm struggling, when I'm dealing with X, Y, and Z. Oftentimes trying to make you feel guilty. Typically the guilt piece is just to make you stay. What else is it there for? He's not just trying to make you feel guilty to feel guilty. He's trying to make you feel guilty so that you stay, and typically so that he can leave on his own terms. Because you're rejecting him, because you're finishing up the relationship. So you're going to see this piece of where he's going to try to project it back on you and try to make you feel guilty. He doesn't want to admit that he's guilty. Like, you're leaving him because of something he did. He doesn't want to feel that way. So he has to make you feel guilty. He has to project it back onto you. He has to blame shift and kind of place it back on you so that you're the abuser, you're the toxic one, you're the person that should be guilty, not him. So he's going to try to make you feel guilty. He's going to try to confuse you. Okay? Then the third thing you're going to see, a lot of times this would be called like future faking. I'm going to write it out a little bit different. Just say empty promises. Okay? Like, he's going to make these promises to you of like, oh, this is what I'm going to do. Like, the belittling hasn't helped. The guilt tripping hasn't helped. Being mad hasn't worked. So then it's time to change up the tactics. It's time to change it up. Narcissists change at the end of the relationship. So then he's going to get to this place and be like, well, since none of this other stuff is working, me being mad and getting upset at you, and also me trying to make you guilty and manipulate your emotions, now let me make these promises. I'm going to change. I'm going to get better. I'm going to get into therapy. Please don't leave me. Stay with me so that I can actually work on this. Like, this is what I had planned for us. This is the house we're going to live in. This is the vacation we're going to take. These are all the different things. Selling you a version of reality. Do you see this? Like the narcissist will make all these empty promises with no intention to fulfill them, but just to keep you stuck in the moment so you do not move forward in your healing process. So you stay with him. Okay, empty promises are huge with a narcissist. Promising change. It's typically just an impulsive reaction to what's going on. Like he's impulsively being like, I'll do it. I'll do this. I'll do this. I'll do this. When in reality, he doesn't really care. He's just trying to get out of the current situation, and he's going to do that by giving you these promises. Okay? Charming you with these promises to do what you want, to do, have him do what you want, so that he's like, I'm changing my behavior. I'm showing up different. And the things that he promised won't actually end up happening. Okay? He's just saying this. He's just saying what he wants you to hear in the moment so that you stay. All right, so what's number 4? Number 4 is this piece of demand attention. At this point, the narcissist is like, focus on me. Like, you started to focus your attention on someone else. You've started to focus your attention on other things that are happening. His main concern is like, hey, it has to be about me. So, like, what are you doing? Like, how can you, like, look at someone else? How can you focus on anything else? So, like, they feel rejected because you got out of the relationship, because you're leaving, and they see the only way to get you back is, like, I need to focus so much of your attention on me. This is where you're going to see the piece of, like, hoovering, right? Of, like, where he's making these promises, making you feel guilty, like, showering you with all different affection, all this kind of stuff, but all of a sudden it's becoming, like, this obsessive piece. You'll see this in the area of almost like stalking. You're like, why is he texting me so much now? Like, he's blowing up my phone. Like, I can't seem to do anything. He's constantly asking about my location, what I'm doing, what guy I'm with, all this stuff. And you're like, it wasn't even this much inside the relationship. Why would I want to go back now? But he thinks in his mind of like, I have to get first and foremost in her mind so that she actually comes back to me. It's a wild thing. It doesn't even logically make sense. But for the narcissist, he's like, this is how I need to operate. This is what I need to do. I need to demand her attention. This is where you see the narcissist get like overly clingy, like overbearing, like oversensitive. And he's like trying to be able to engage as much as possible. Like, how do I engage? It's almost like this desperation of like, wait a second, if you leave me, then I actually have to sit with myself and be exposed with all the shit that's inside. So don't leave. So he's trying to like pull you back. Okay? Like, he'll be like, hey, I want to give you closure. So maybe we need to get together. Like, can we sit down and you actually say goodbye? I wasn't ready for you to say goodbye. So we need to actually do it again. Like, can we actually get together and you explain again, like, why you want to leave or why this isn't happening? Like, he's coming by your house in the middle of the night. He's like calling you all times of the day. Like, the whole piece of like demanding attention. Then, what's number 5? Number 5 is trying to convince you that you made a mistake. Now, he's going to do this a couple different ways. Oftentimes, this piece is similar to the guilt tripping, but he'll use this to make sure that he disagrees with your decision and tells you that you're wrong. You're making a mistake leaving me. Now, it might be just out of cruelty and making him sound like, hey, I'm going to be this person to make you feel bad. But the narcissist is going to try to convince you that he's right in the moment. Even if he's 100% wrong, it doesn't matter. He's still going to try to convince you that he's right. You're making a mistake. Now, it's hard because then you've spent so much time with this person, like you're locked in, you've been tied to him for a period of time, and now he's telling you you're making a mistake. You're like, well, maybe I am. And you start to doubt, you start to disbelieve it. So you're like, okay, well, maybe I should stay in the relationship. Maybe I should go back. Because he wants you to feel the blame. Now, the hard part is a lot of times he'll say, hey, you made a mistake. He'll try to convince you of this. He might try to convince you of this by doing smaller smear campaigns. He might try to convince you of this by going and being with another person, trying to trigger this jealousy emotion in you, showing you that it's all you. Because he goes to the next person, he paints this picture-perfect idea, and you're like, wait a second, like, he's given her everything that I wanted. Maybe it was my fault. Because you hear in your mind, you hear him say, you're making a mistake. Narcissists are very subtle with this, trying to convince you, trying to confuse you, trying to leave you stuck. Narcissist is trying to walk through these different things just to be able to manipulate you back into the relationship. If you're going through the process of breaking up, of divorcing a narcissist, keep going. Yeah, keep going. because narcissists will use a lot of these tactics and a lot of these stages to try to manipulate you, to try to convince you to drop the divorce charges, to stop the breakup, to stop moving forward in that direction. Because if he can do that, he can keep you a little bit longer. He can help his image, he can help his finances, he can help whatever he wants in the moment because you haven't actually left him. Keep going. You're like, but what if he changes? What if he gets better? That's great. Assess that in a year after you've been broken up 100%. But stop waiting around being like, well, I don't want to get divorced because then he might not change. Exactly. If he's not going to change because he's not with you, then you don't need to be with him because he's only doing it for you. So as soon as he falls out of that love and that excitement of keeping you, he'll revert right back. Change does not happen when it's based on the other person. So you're going to see the narcissist oftentimes go through these 5 different stages. He'll get mad. He'll try to make you feel guilty. He'll give you all these empty promises, future faking, making you think something's going to change. He'll demand your attention, being very obsessive with this. And he'll also try to convince you that you made a mistake. Further locking in that he's right. Further locking in when he goes to the next person that you're the crazy one. Have you seen this in your relationship? Are you struggling? Are you going through one of these stages right now? Like I mentioned before, keep going. If I can be of help and assistance as you're breaking up from a toxic guy, go to rawmotivations.com. If you want to run faster with me and the people that I run with on a day-to-day basis inside of the Thriver community, go to rawmotivations.com/breakthrough to be able to talk to me today.